I'll catch any Conrads that come flying.
Oh, geez. That's when the boost hits, man. Okay, are you ready? So we've got coolant running from what looks like the middle of the rad. Well, there it is. Our final assembly of everything has come together, and man, this engine bay is starting to look good. A few notable things. We did put a bunch of DEI heat sleeving over all of the coolant line, the oil feed line. We put a blanket around the turbo just to like manage heat here as much as possible. The one thing I will ask you guys is we've got the blow-off valve hooked up to the intake manifold through the, what is I guess like a PCV valve that goes right back here. I did read there is a check valve inside of the PCV valve, so we should be good, but if you guys can confirm that in the comments, that would be great. There is one last thing that we have to do here to complete this engine bay, and that is a lower intercooler pipe. I'm gonna be using this Vibrant 2-inch 90-degree bend here to come off of the turbo, which is gonna make life very easy, as you can see like that. And then basically, I just need a straight shot right here, and we should be able to connect our lower intercooler pipe from the intercooler to the turbo here. So There it is. Well, very quick and easy job. A little bit of DEI Reflectagold there. And you know, I didn't get it on there perfectly. You guys saw the wrinkles, DP.
It's impossible to get that stuff
No,
on
I think
perfect.
it is. You just gotta like do it with like vinyl wrap.
Or a little heat or something.
Maybe.
For engine oil, we are going with Valvoline's latest and greatest. This is their brand new Restore and Protect. This is a premium full synthetic, and it is the only motor oil on the market that can remove up to 100% of deposits on critical engine components like the pistons. So that is a industry first, and I think a very exciting one, because it will restore this, 20 to 30-year-old engine to like new inside with 4 continuous changes using Restore and Protect. We're going with the factory 5W30 weight. Pour it in there. Normally I'd be pouring from the rafters or from a ladder, but today we're just going with a good old-fashioned standard pour because it's a good old-fashioned Honda B series. Oil level looks good. However, we're not sure how good this OE dipstick is going to look with the heat of the manifold pounding away at it. This orange may turn, I don't know what color it's going to turn. You turbo
Brown,
guys,
DP. It's gonna turn brown.
Probably brown. You're
And
probably right.
It's gonna burn up. I feel like.
Yeah, maybe it will literally catch fire.
Like, what does that feel like? Rubber?
It does feel like a rubbery plastic type of coating.
I can't imagine it's gonna catch fire, but it's certainly gonna get pounded with a ton of heat there.
Yeah, it's going to get discolored, but whatever. I mean, let us know in the comment section if this is a known issue with Turbo B series, but it is what it is. It does its job as a dipstick. If it gets discolored, well, it'll just blend in more than it blends in now.
One thing we forgot to do is change out the OEM map sensor. It is good for around 10 PSI. That being said, we're probably gonna be right at that limit where we're gonna run like 8 to 10 PSI max on this setup. And in doing so, you just never wanna max one of these out because bad things can happen. K-Tune does offer this guy, which is a 4-bar setup, which will never max out. And it's going to give us that safety margin that we need. So it's a must-have in my opinion. And as you can see, a very easy switch here. Just gotta put the screws back in and it bolts right on. And then you gotta do some stuffs in the tuning to adjust for the 4-bar and you'll be good to go.
It's time to put coolant in the engine, and to do that we're using our airlift system, which you've seen us use before, but I'll just quickly run down what it does. You can see we've got it set up right now to draw all the air or coolant out of the engine. So we're gonna suck this thing completely dry, so much so that it actually like collapses the rad hoses. And then we can see based on the gauge here whether we have a leak in the system. And if it doesn't start to lose any vacuum, then we know the system is good to go. Then we can switch it up and actually use the same system to draw coolant out of the bucket into the engine. It'll fill it completely without any air being introduced, so it should be good to go at that point. Here you can see it's lost suction, so we are full. And of course we have used Xerox by Valvoline. This is what we put in all of our cars. And in this case, we're using the blue stuff because that's the Honda formulation. We were this close to firing it up, and then we thought, maybe we should check to see if we put an oil filter on there. And sure enough, we did not, and it was going to make a huge mess. So
would have been very bad.
That would have been a bad day, but it wouldn't have been a first round here in terms of oil spills. We've had our fair share. As for the oil filter, I know a lot of you guys are like, OE is best, but we're gonna one-up you with this OE Plus oil filter. We've been using these Pro Series OE Plus oil filters on all of our builds lately, and quality is super high on them. We've been really impressed by all of their products, and we've had absolutely no issues with any of it so far. We also need to put fluid in the transmission, but to do that, we need to put the axles in. So there's a little bit of work to do there first. We figured while we're under here, let's install our brand new shift linkages from Hard Race. As you can see, we've just plopped the brand new bushing in this end and on this end as well, which, by the way, you do have to buy the bushing kit separately. The linkage just comes as the metal piece, but how nice is it to get a brand new shift linkage? Normally the other shift linkage would connect to the transmission with this input shaft, if you want to call it that, which is held on via a roll pin, or what is commonly called the bitch pin, which you have to hammer in and out through here to connect to this shaft. It's aptly named the bitch pin because it is not a fun job to get it in and out. It's easily damaged. Actually, on our EF Civic, we noticed that someone had installed a pretty ingenious little device that replaces that part of the linkage. And I'm dropping another bushing here that will bolt into place here, and actually is held on with a combination of Allen bolts that pinch down on the output shaft here on the gearbox, but also have a secondary pin that's undersized, so it just slips through there and is held on with a cotter pin for safety. This company's called Dyno Designs, and I believe he calls this the Tyrannosaur Tightener. I don't know, maybe because it clamps down so tight it's like a Tyrannosaur. Anyway, neat little device that he says was tested in the harsh winter conditions of Barrie, Ontario, so maybe he's even a Canadian. If so, how you doing, eh? Tightening down these Allens, and wow, this just makes removing and reattaching the shift link just so much easier than the OE system. And I should also mention that it does include Delrin bushings in this joint, so that really takes some slop out of it as well. Time to pop the axles in here so we can fill the gearbox with oil before first startup. And this is always a bit of a fun one to get. There it goes. She's in there. I mean, we could bungee cord it in there, but why don't we throw the knuckle back on so it's got a place to live?
So we are going down a bit of a sidetrack here. Since we're going to be installing the knuckles, we do want to do a couple of things to them. And the first one is change out the ball joints. These are the factory ball joints, and they're not bad, but they certainly have a bunch of mileage on them. And really what we want to do is go to the hard race roll center correction ball joints. And when you lower a car on the factory suspension and the geometry, it actually causes the vehicle to roll more. Going with one of these brings the suspension back to the factory setup, and when you do lower the car, you get less roll. So it is a win-win in both ways. And you can see, to remove this, I actually had to put a socket on here and just like hammer this out, because to put this on a press is really difficult due to the design of it. And now to press this back in, I'm gonna have to take the rubber boot off here. So I'm gonna start with that. I think it could clear, but I just don't wanna risk it, and I don't wanna tear a brand new rubber boot. So I'm just gonna slowly work my way around here and take this off. Now we drop the ball joint into place here and come in with our press tool. And these you can rent at your auto parts store, your local, AutoZone or whatever you've got locally. So you don't have to go out and buy one of these.
Parts source for the Canadian bros.
That's right, at the old parts source in Canada and in the US. I'm sure the AutoZone has it or whatever.
Yeah.
O'Reilly's. All of them, but you can see this actually works really well. Like, look how quickly I can get this in there. Roll center ball joint in place. Woo! And I just got to put the boot back on here. I looked inside the box, and look at this, everybody. There is a snap ring that has to go on here. That means this is truly hardcore stuff, everybody.
Motorsports grade.
That's right, because if you need a snap ring, that means you're going to be going fast. And if you're going fast, well, then you gotta make sure your ball joint is locked in place. There you go. Now it's never going to fall out of there. Another upgrade we are making are some hard race adjustable upper control arms, and that is because the factory ones did not have any, and we certainly want camber adjustment. And here's a question for you guys. What is this brace for? Is this like a support brace or what? I had never understood the reason for this brace, because like, as you see, this goes up into here and it bolts into place. So I don't really understand how it ties anything in or whatever it does.
Power brace, I guess. It just stiffens those two.
That's what I mean. It just, I'm sure it is a brace. It has to be a brace. I just don't necessarily understand why it's there, because what happens is when you want to take this off, you actually have to take the whole suspension off, because you can see right now I can remove it no problem, but if there's a shock here and a spring, this does not come out. So it actually adds like a bit of complexity if you're changing these out. Now we can have an axle that we don't have to worry about spinning when we start this engine up here. So it should be pretty easy to put back together drop this in. By the way, all our hard race stuff does come from our buddy Chris over at Stage 4 Motorsports. And if you ask nicely, there should be a discount code in the description.
For gear oil, you can see we're using 75W90 from Valvoline in this super handy flex fill package. Just lets you squeeze it in there. So easy. And yes, this is a slightly heavier oil than OE, but in my experience, a 90 weight is actually perfect in these B series gearboxes for any kind of like high stress use, be it, you know, a turbo B or a race car. It does take a little bit longer to warm up, so you gotta like go easy on the shifts until it's warm. You'll feel when it starts to shift better, and then you've got that added protection of a slightly thicker oil. And Valvoline's got really good additives and everything that'll keep the synchros happy. So for us, this is the way to go. For a battery, we're going with this XD unit from Pro Series. For all of our Canadian viewers, you can get it at Part Source, and it has more cranking amps and cold cranking than the OE battery. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that when you live in an environment like ours. As you'll recall, the tucked AC line kit that we're running goes behind the battery here, and as a result of that, we do have to offset the bracket a little bit. So we've upgraded to this K-tuned billet bracket, and because it's wider than the OE bracket, we think it's gonna just support the bracket, or support the battery a little bit better than the stock one would, and frankly, look better too. All right, cable's tight, battery secure. Are we ready to fire this thing up, Pete?
All right, the time has come, everybody. We've got Forrest from Link on the old phone here, and he is remote logged in. So prior to starting this vehicle, we're gonna go through a couple minor checks here to make sure everything is good to go, because we don't wanna, you know, just immediately crank the car up and then find out that one of the sensors isn't working or I wired something incorrectly. So Forrest, where are we gonna start here?
Our first two things we'll do our map sensor calibration and TPS calibration.
Ah, yes. I see, I already forgot about those. You need those. Those are important.
Yeah, a lot of people forget that. It's definitely a big deal. Map sensor calibration is pretty easy. There. And complete it successfully. We'll do our TPS.
All right, this is where I got to jump in the car here.
That stuff is all together.
All right, does that look like it's working there?
Yeah.
There
It's
you
going
go.
from 0 to 100.
There you go.
That's a good sign.
Next up, we'll check our boost solenoid, make sure that it's pulsing and doing what we need it to do.
Gotcha. Oh, I can hear it. It's making that noise.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
It's working.
Like a water sprinkler.
That's right.
Your can gauge should be probably showing something right now.
Let's have a look here. It is on. That's correct. It is showing coolant and TPS. Yeah.
All right. So next we'll just do a trigger scope just to make sure that all that stuff is working.
Yep.
So I'll just need you to just crank until I tell you to stop.
Okay. New timing light actually from Innova. This is the one Tuning by Nick recommends. It actually has timing advance in it, so you can lock the timing and then we can kind of like see the advance on it. It's pretty good. So Forrest, we have our timing light ready to go. Is there anything else that we need at this point?
I think we're good to try to start it.
Are we ready, Dave?
I'm ready.
I'm feeling a little anxious,
I
but
was
you know,
ready.
I'm pumped for this.
I'll catch any Conrads that come flying.
Oh,
out.
geez. That's when the boost hits, man. Okay, we ready?
Oh man,
My goodness, Forrest, it runs.
too easy.
Oh, look at this thing. There we go. My goodness. Listen how quiet it is, DP.
Good.
Oh,
I'm close. I'm off a little bit at the 0 mark, I think. I think we're retarded by like a degree or two. Yep, there. Now we're on. Now we're spot. Oh.
Oh, you just unlocked it. Okay. Well, there we are. We're locked in place here. And man, this thing is looking good for it. It's running. I mean, let me give it a little bit of throttle here. Let's see what happens. Oh wow. Amazing. Oil pressure looks good. And you're just gonna dial in a couple of small things for us here.
Yeah, we'll just get it, idling kind of normal.
Gotcha. Well, there you go, everybody. Look at this. Huge thanks to Forrest, of course. Always thank you, man. Anytime we, need help. That's the beauty of the Link ECU. You also have access to their technical support, and their guys are really awesome, and they're patient, as Forrest is with us all the time. So we certainly appreciate that so much more than you know. It makes starting cars like this so much easier when you've got a resource such as yourself. So
I'm always glad to help. You guys
awesome.
make it easy.
Thank you. So Forrest got the idle down a little bit more to like 850. Look at this thing. It's running like stock, everybody. Oh, and it sounds. It's gonna make some power. Oh, that is about, I think, as good a first start that we have had in a long time. Man, that's, you can hear it. Oh, we got a little bit of a leak here. See?
Where?
I called it. Look at it right here. See right there?
Oh yeah.
It's just,
Oh, wow.
I gotta tighten that
Tighten
bad
that
boy
post clamp.
down. And,
That's our only
well, there you
problem.
go. So I just jinxed it, but man, this thing sounds good, runs well. So we have ourselves a turbocharged B series, everybody. Okay, of course, I spoke too soon. It does look like we have a coolant leak. And man, I don't think it's going to be an easy fix here. So let me get this thing up in the air and let us have a look. But you can see we do have a drip. We have basically, look, a drip right here. Let me get a light. So we've got coolant running from what looks like the middle of the rad. I checked up top, we had that little minor leak at the rad hose, and I tightened it up. There is no coolant up top leaking. It is coming from the middle of the rad. So what's likely happened is we must have, I guess, punctured it or something.
Punctured a tube, yeah.
But like, here's the weird thing. It ran, it didn't drip, it was fine.
Yeah.
And then it, I guess it got up to temperature a bit, and then all of a sudden it sprung a leak. So
Yeah.
this one is a peculiar one. Unfortunately, in this scenario here, that means this rad has got to come out. So we're gonna pull this rad, we're gonna drain the coolant, and then we'll have a closer inspection as to what exactly happened. Well, the coil rad is out, and you can see up front here, we just can't see any type of puncture in the actual core itself, but you can see the line of coolant running all the way down. And the more I inspect up here, I can see there was a trail of coolant running from here. So maybe, possibly, what has happened is as soon as I tightened that hose clamp up, it just opened it up just a little bit below and it started dripping this way, but we couldn't see it because it was running down right underneath it. As you can see, I've got my contraption set up here with the rad hose. Everything else is plugged up, and we have a pressure tester hooked up. So I'm gonna put 15 PSI into this bad boy here right now, and we shall see if we can see or hear any type of like major leak. Like the amount of coolant that was spewing out of there, it to me would have been like a real major leak. And it is falling. This does have a slight little leak. I can hear it hissing out of here, but like the rat, yeah, see if I
What's in the cap?
yeah, it's just, that's not perfect, but like if you look here, it doesn't seem like there's any leak going on. So, man, I don't know, DP. I think it was the actual like rad hose itself, unfortunately. Well, here is our new hose, and look at the diameter difference. You can see this is likely the issue, what we had. Like, I foolishly shouldn't have even tried to like clamp this. Look how loose this thing is on here. A lot of play. And the new guy, you'll see, look how it actually goes on and is tight. So this really, I think, will fix our leak problem. So we should be back up and running here in a moment. Coolant is in. So I think at this point, let's fire this thing up. And I'm confident, DP, I don't think we're gonna have a leak anymore. This is just sealed up so nicely. This thing's gonna run. It's all gonna be good. Okay. Yeah, looking good. No leaks, everybody. We don't want to smoke the shop out here, so I'm gonna turn this sucker off. But man, it is so nice to finally have ourselves a running engine. We still got a lot to do, but we are gonna be wrapping this one sadly, so thank you guys so much for watching. In the next episode, we're gonna move on to suspension, brakes. We're hopefully gonna put this car together. We've got some cool exterior parts coming up, so this thing is going to transform. And then finally, we are gonna hit the dyno, everybody. I am super excited to see what this thing makes for power. If you guys have guesses, certainly post in the comments and let us know, have you been liking the pace of this series? Are we going too fast, too slow? Let us know in the comments. Thanks, guys, and we'll see you in the next one.